Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Walter, I'm the Dutch mentor, and welcome to the S.M.A.R.T Performance Podcast. S stands for self-care, M for mindful growth, A for adaptive learning, R for rhythmic operation, T for a thriving community, and of course, P for performance. I'm so glad to have Scott with me today. We have a great tagline, going from chaos to clarity, fits right into the rhythmic operation section. So without further ado, Scott, welcome to the show and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Walter, thanks for having me here today. Long story short, been focused for most of my career on the implementation of systems, human systems, technology systems, operational systems. My passion came from moving all over the world as a kid: London, Paris, Madrid, the States. My dad was an engineer with a company, and kind of got a reputation for fixing things, and did so with an operational systems mindset. But he's also a great guy, my hero, so head and heart kind of a thing. And over the last 12 years, in addition to starting companies and running companies big and small, I've been focused mostly on coaching, consulting, and helping small mid-market startups learn what we like to call the essential concepts, tools, and disciplines to build, run, and scale a great company. And then about 3 years ago, I started the Boss Up Coaching Solution and Academy. And we've got coaches all over the world, and they provide a methodical, programmatic way to your point, to your intro, to rhythmatize, systematize, and help companies that typically are just out grinding and elbow grease. And we bring a more structured framework, methodology, tools, disciplines, and resources to help them build, run, and scale a great company and be the best versions of themselves. So that's Boss Up Coaching Solution Academy. And we got a couple of books and guidebooks, and it's this bundled solution. I'm having a lot of fun running it these days.
Sounds like a great opportunity for people to find clarity through the chaos. But let's start at the root cause, right? So we have all come across individuals and businesses that look good from the outside, but are, oh boy, on the inside. And of course, that prevents them from ever really fully reaching their potential. It's also well known in the United States that 70-80% of the startup companies go belly up before they actually sell their first product or service because there is chaos and no clarity. So first, why is there chaos? And then once we define those behaviors, those habits, and the reasons why, let's build upon that and see how we can get from chaos to clarity.
Well, first of all, I think, I don't like absolutes, but let's just say that in general, I think in the startup world in particular, there tends to be this romanticism for, and I used the word earlier, the grind. There tends to be this theory that when you start something, you just do it, you go for it, you rock and roll, and you bang around, and you make things up as you go along, and that's the hustle. And again, I think it's been romanticized overly. I've learned through a lot of failures, mistakes, and startups, and raising money and investing money, that as much as the startups in the early stage and the small companies have the passion and the energy and the desire, typically what gets kind of the shaft and the short sheet is the operational systemization, the appreciation of probably what they think the bigger companies always do: structure and rules and process and procedure, because that sounds so corporate, and that's not what entrepreneurs do. And I think that's where chaos sets in. And instead of just sort of ignoring that, saying, kick that can down the street, I just implore everybody from day one to think about structure and systemization and alignment and rules and who's who and what do they do. And so my passion is, to take the best of the big companies that do that. Yes, take the energy of small, early stage companies that are all about the passion and the fight, and fuse the two together. Nobody said you can't have head and heart and process and purpose and profit and passion. And I think that's where you get from chaos to clarity, by having good systems, good rules, good alignment, everybody agreeing, good meetings, good rhythm. And that's just a better life to live. Why wouldn't you want, calm, cool, and collected, and fun and energy?
Well, 100% right, and it is. And you can see that people have a hard time seeing that up front, of course. But once they go through that process, they look often back upon it 5, 10 years later. It's like, oh my God, I only wish I had done this earlier, right? So I just want to remind the audience, right? So we talk about solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, small companies, startups. At the end of the day, it's an individual, right? And that doesn't make a difference if you're an individual as a leader of self, or a small team, or in healthcare, or IT, or banking. The rules apply the same, right? All of these folks are stuck in the valley of despair, doing, with the hope that they will excel and find that solution. So let's say we have finally recognized that I need help. It's almost like Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Is that hopefully the person didn't come to the conclusion they needed help when it was too late. But let's say they call you and say, listen, I need help. How do you start bringing that clarity, and how do you systemize what's your approach to that?
Yeah, so I said earlier, we're kind of passionate about what we call the essential concepts, tools, and disciplines. And while they're synergistic, they're intentionally separate. From a concept standpoint, we believe in simple, clear, concise frameworks. And we've got a framework that helps to establish what we call the 9 core competencies. It's where you ensure you got the right vision and the values. Your goals are SMART, a different version of SMART. You've got process and accountability. You know what your product and your market is. And just make sure you've got the right framework. And we use a blend of guidebooks and curriculum and technology and AI. Second are the tools, and the tools certainly are everything from a laptop to any tangible asset that gets you from here to there. And then the third, which is typically the hardest one, Walter, is the disciplines, right? The mindset, the work ethic. It's where my book Boss Up Moments is. The soft skills, right? How do I overcome challenges and conflict and set good boundaries and ensure we have win-win relationships? And so we believe that there's this wonderful concept called working on versus working in. And so we come along and we don't ask a company to stop what they're doing and hit the pause button. It's an integration. It's a layering in and a tucking in of, again, a great framework that sets the 9 core competencies and their answers. Then they start to tuck it in and get that into the rhythm and the motion. And then they just have a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual cadence on setting good goals, proper reporting. And so it's a proven, tailored, methodical way to help them get from where they've been to where they're at to where they want to go. And
So
by
two
doing that, by
areas.
the way, you just have that much more confidence and composure and clarity and consistency. You follow me?
Yeah, no, listen, it is the rhythmic operations piece that I work with my individual clients, and I don't do a lot of work on large businesses or mid-sized businesses. Is very similar in nature, right? So there are really 2 things, and you touch base on both of them. One, I would like to talk about the resistance to change. So give us an example where you work with a company or an entrepreneur where they just were hyper resistant to change. Every time you said something, they reverted back to what they already know. It's so difficult for people thinking outside of that box. And secondly, I would love to talk a little bit about that cadence of accountability, because, oh boy, that is the critical piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, change is difficult even when it's good because it's new. And us humans, we like, again, comfort but I just believe one of our favorite concepts is you got to get comfortable getting uncomfortable. And Darwin and evolution and transformation. I'm not a big pusher of, revolution, right? Because that's where you can get kind of messed up. And so intelligent, practical, just like the application of AI today. Don't let it consume you, and don't, neither a cynic nor an optimist be when it comes to AI. Be practical, be intelligent, and layer and tuck it in. So I think with change, most organizations just don't have a confident, again, framework, format, and formula. And when you have a confident framework, format, and formula, just like a good recipe to make a great meal, you have that much more confidence, right? Why make it up as you go along when there's wonderful, proven assets and templates and frameworks that can help you have that much more confidence when you need to change something? And one of the concepts we have by Stephen Covey is called rocks. Rocks are 90-day projects, programs, or initiatives, set differently goals. And frankly, there's 2 types. What do you want to start doing that you haven't done before? And what do you want to stop doing that you shouldn't do anymore? Right? And that's not easy. It's not easy making things easy or simple. So I just think the biggest thing is people get overwhelmed by change. There's no cliche how to eat an elephant bite by bite, and they just got to get their head around the fact that number one, they do need to evolve and change and grow and prosper, and to do so means starting or stopping things that you need to start or stop. But second, I don't think a lot, especially entrepreneurs, if I may, and startups, they tend to have again this romanticism that they gotta kind of grind through, and it's the hustle. And I just, I've been to a lot of startup conferences. I've done a lot of talks, and I've seen sometimes where it's like that startup person's in the room 10 years later, and you're like, when do you want to grow up? Right? We're not teenagers and kids forever, right? Adulting. So yeah, I just think there's a fear, uncertainty, and doubt because people just can't get over themselves, and they get in their own darn way on how to get from here to there. They think they got to do it as opposed to getting assistance and support and outside help, if you will. And I think that's mostly where it's at. It's this emotional paradigm that people just feel like, hey, if I seek outside help, I'm not as cool, or I'm a loser, or I got problems. It's not true, right? They need to be vulnerable and authentic and realistic, and realize that while they may be great at this product in the company and the service or the solution, that doesn't mean that they need to be an expert on how to get from here to there, and they need to partner up with somebody who can help them.
Sadly, pride and ego often gets into the way,
Indeed.
and it is only those people who can become vulnerable by leaning on the softer side. And that is something that will help them overcome. So with that said, so let's assume that people have gone to that breakthrough moment. They're finally buying into it. They finally see light at the end of the tunnel. You're teaching them how to let go, how to shift the responsibility from the owner to the performer with accountability back to them. So that's that cadence of accountability. So listen, we're both seasoned. We've been around the block a few times. We know that things, that too often, 70-80% of things don't ever really come to fruition because people drop what they were working on to fight another fire. So tell me about the cadence of accountability and how long it takes to really get into a new normal. And of course, then the mindset of continuous improvement comes into play.
Love it. Yeah, thank you. So ideally, what we really want, if we're bringing in, and I'm just going to call it a system, right? And sadly, because of what's going on in the world, systems have gotten kind of a bad rap. And I like to just remind everybody, systems aren't bad by nature. People make systems bad. All systems are flawed. All frameworks, all books. Why? Because out of the box, they're inanimate. They don't know you. So until you tailor it, bring it into your world, and avoid the over modification, right? And just respect that there's a line there. And so I just think on average, right, is that most people struggle with the fusion of, again, on and in, and head and heart, and left brain and right brain, and we've got to help them see that there's a way to get from here to there, and then second, back to the word system. Systems need to be flexible, but back to running a company, you've got to find the time to schedule meetings. Meetings stink. Well, because you make them stink. If you come in with the right attitude and the mindset. So that's my real passion. Back to the story about my dad. I was an early entrepreneur back in the 90s, started a company in the dot-com era, raised a bunch of money, bought a bunch of companies. I think I was the quintessential example of Warren Buffett's famous quote, "Even turkeys can fly in a tornado." I was a turkey, and I didn't know the difference between, a P&L and a BLT, to be honest, when I raised and started. And so I just think, to your point about ego and IQ and EQ, right? The balance of all those. But I just think if small companies respect and appreciate that they need to operate and systemize and standardize and have protocol, all these words that sometimes people roll their eyes and say, yeah, but you can do it better, right? You don't have to be all corporate and bureaucratic and yucky, right? But just think about the world without good systems, what a mess it would be. Back to chaos.
Yeah, I love it. It is people are resistant to that, but it is so very much needed in order to be able to make, able to replicate, right? How can I make that favorite sugar cookie that's not done
replication
by chance?
And back to not only that, Walter, but nobody wants to buy a company that's over reliant, number one, on the owner, okay? Because they want assets that can transfer outside of that person. So if the company can't run itself without the owner, at least for a week or two or three, let alone sell it, right? That's why one of our 9 core competencies is exit. Now, I hate when starters and founders come in and say the first thing I'm going to do is become a unicorn. That's rubbish. That's getting a little silly, right? Cash flow and income and balance sheet and making money, that's important. But the reality is that you've got to respect that. Ideally, one of the concepts I really do try to promote is businesses are good. Businesses are the revenue, the cash flow, the operations. But what you really want to do, back to enterprise value, is you want to build a great company. Because companies have legacy. They stand the test of time, right? And to do that, just like a home, you've got to have plumbing. You've got to have floorboards. You've got to have the foundation that holds up the rest of the bedrooms and the kitchen, right? It's an end both. It's like anytime you run a good business, I use the metaphor of a beautiful home. The bricks are the content, the physical assets. The mortar is the soft stuff, the energy, the culture, the attitude, the perspective, right? And bricks without mortar are just bricks, and mortar without bricks is just goop. So you gotta put those two together. And I just wish more early stage startup founders would have that respect at a minimum. You ready? That it's an and both, not an either or, like most things in life, probably.
Absolutely right. And I want to remind everybody again, this is not just about the entrepreneur that goes out and raises millions of dollars. This is about each one of us who is an inspiring, emerging leader. I don't care where you are. The brick and mortar piece fits into having structure, having clarity, having goals, having and align those with aspirations, and of course working on your legacy. That you cannot be the doer of all. I want to shift the conversation for the last couple of minutes to AI, because you mentioned it a few times. How is AI an enhancer to an operational rhythm today, and what would you recommend people to learn about this, and what tools are available?
Yeah, number one, you just got to make peace, irrespective of what side of the street you're on, that it's going to come into the world and eat your brains and robots are going to take us over. The other side is, right, I'm gonna blow it off and never do anything with it. The truth is somewhere in the middle. And I think number one, you gotta say, hey, I'm in charge. It's my co-pilot. It's an ally. It's an assistant, and it's gonna help me with enhancing my critical thinking. It's gonna help me with decision making and discernment. There's a lot of ways you can really rock and roll in the technology, but for most people, I say don't get caught up in LLM and the agent side and the tech per se. First, embrace the strategy and how it can enhance your world, your operation. To your point, everything I'm saying, by the way, the beauty about the work we do is that it's not only good for the company and the shareholders and the people running it, but everybody's learning great skills, right? They're learning how to level up themselves, and that applies to their balancing their checkbook in their life and their relationships with their spouses and their kids. So the beauty of this, man, is that so many of the great concepts, tools, and disciplines, help you drive a better P&L and a balance sheet and growth. So you want to 10x, if you will, in business. And that's where AI comes in as well. It transcends the execution side in the company to the life side, so that you can be more efficient and more effective. And I know that might sound efficient and effective when I'm at home with my family. Yeah, because time is valuable.
Yeah.
And on average, most people spend more time in work than they do at home. And so my approach to AI, it's like journaling. Bring it in, let it enhance and challenge and elevate, push and prod you in ways. But I'll stop on this one where I started. You own it. Be the boss, and make sure that it serves you, not the other way around. And make it I would suggest to any company in the world, if you don't have AI as a call out, specifically from an asset, an issue, a challenge, an opportunity, you're already a little bit behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, anybody who is not already interacting with AI or learning it on a daily basis is falling behind for sure. And I love the concept of buying back time. Right, I just had a great podcast a couple of days ago with George Rivera about this topic. It is about the quality of time we spend at home with family, friends, and having fun, that we can get that back by utilizing these types of tools. Also learning to let go, right? And that goes back to the early part of the conversation. Where can we find you, Scott?
Yeah, so candidly, I just came out with my new book, Boss Up Moments, which is really there's 40 moments in here around what I call the soft skills, the heart, the style, the awareness, the mindset. So this just came out a couple of weeks ago. Pretty passionate about it. And this ties into the first book, Boss Up, which is really the think of this as the engineering, and this is the energy. This is the structure, the rules, the frameworks, the formula to combine business systems, AI, and a coaching mindset, right? So that people always are challenging themselves and scaling up. And then this really is a fun, interactive. It actually has videos, QR codes into a YouTube channel. It's got prompts for journaling or using with AI. So pretty passionate about this. So if you go to Amazon, Boss Up Moments and Boss Up the book. And then, you can connect with me on all the interwebs, including my website at Scott Abbott ABC, both .com and on Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter, Scott Abbott ABC. And the ABC stands for Architect, Builder, Custodian, which is what I hope everybody thinks of themselves, that they're an architect, builder, custodian, not only of businesses and work, but of their life, right? And they're in charge, back to even with AI. So thanks for asking, Walter.
Thank you. I love it. It fits right into my same, thinking of the rhythmic operation. It falls into the S.M.A.R.T mobile app that I've developed. And actually, it's really excited to tell that it's finally in testing with the Apple Store and should be coming out by Christmas time. We need to have a mentor in our pocket, right? We need to have somebody. We should not go at it alone. And those people who are looking in the mirror and say, oh my God, I'm working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. I'm not getting ahead. Listen, what the work you do in Boss Up, the work that I'm doing in the S.M.A.R.T mobile app and the coaching of individuals, all these things are very, very important. Give me a parting thought.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off what you just said. I think, I often say this to myself and all of our coaches, right? A coach without a coach is a liar. And so it challenges me back to the word mentor and nurture and coaching, right? Coaching is a verb, it's a noun, it's an adjective, it's a mindset. We know that people, and to your credit, thank you, Walter, for the new app, that, coaching requires an investment, not just of cash capital, but of time. And so I believe in the modern world today, we've got to make it accessible, inclusive, affordable, and you got to find a way. But yeah, if you're not appreciating mentorship and you're not strategically and tactically incorporating how to grow and become better, if you ain't growing, you're dying, man, right? And so 100%. I would just encourage them to, keep listening to you and leverage your new app and Godspeed on the continuous and constant pursuit of improvement and betterment. Now, don't let it get, the better of you and overwhelm. So find that harmony, right? You got to work and deliver and produce. But I've just learned over the years that when you stop growing, that's when trouble starts. And back to chaos, to clarity. Don't let your ego get in the way of your pride of saying, hey, there's probably somebody that I should connect with and listen to and read to help me be better in business, work, and life. So those are my thoughts.
I love the fact that it is the pride and ego have led to much chaos and downfalls of brilliant people who otherwise could have been very successful. Scott, thank you very much for being on the show today. To the audience, thank you for listening. Again, you can know where to find Scott. It'll all be in the transcript of the program today as well. We look forward to the next session after that. Again, keep motivated and take action. Without action, we can't accomplish much of anything. Thank you. We'll talk soon again.
Walter, thanks everybody.
Take care.